Okay, let's find out what's happening in Trollville. Chapter 9, Playing Dress Up. The next day, Ben's grandfather dropped Ben off at Dr. Wu's Warm Hospital at 8:18 a.m. A little early because he wanted to get to the Food for Less market to buy more matzo ball mix. Word of the mysterious epidemic was spreading as fast as the disease itself. "Give this soup to Dr. Wu to keep her healthy," Grandpa Abe said, handing Ben a small plaid thermos. "Tell her it's an old family recipe. I'll send more soon as I make it." Luckily, Grandpa Abe's tonsils had been removed sometime during the last century, so he had woken up with a normal-sized head. Ben didn't have the heart to tell his grandfather that matzo ball soup wasn't going to help the doctor. It might taste delicious, but it couldn't cure a disease from the imaginary world. When Pearl arrived at the hospital gate at 8:22 a.m., Ben almost didn't recognize her. Her long blonde hair hung loose, and she tied an oversized yellow bow to the top of her head. Ben thought it made her look a little bit like a birthday present. "Do not say anything about my skirt," she told him with a roll of her eyes. "I already know that I look like a lace factory exploded all over me." And then she smiled slyly. "But I am still wearing my basketball shorts underneath. I want to be comfortable, don't I?" Ben wasn't comfortable. He was sweating something fierce. His shirt was buttoned all the way up to his chin, and his tie felt like a noose around his neck. He completed the outfit with a pair of pressed pants and brand new, stiff, black dress shoes. "This might be the most important trip that we take to the imaginary world," Pearl said as she fiddled with her bow. "My mom and dad woke up with troll tonsillitis. Their faces are so round they looked like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. There's already a long line in front of the doctor's office, but what is he going to do? He doesn't have a griffin's feather." Ben thought that it was odd that the Buttonville only had one doctor for all the people. There were doctors all over the place in Los Angeles, 5 in his neighborhood alone. If you could strain your elbow sometime during a tennis game, you could see a sports injury doctor. If you got a sunburn at the beach, you could go to the skin doctor. And if you wanted to freeze your face so you don't have any wrinkles, you had about a zillion plastic surgeons. "Don't worry," Ben said. "We'll get a feather, and we'll get your parents back to normal. I promise." At precisely 8:30 a.m., Mr. Tabby opened the gate and led them toward the hospital. He looked particularly dashing in a metallic gold vest. "Are we fancy enough?" asked Pearl. "It would appear that you actually followed my instructions," Mr. Tabby replied with an approving nod. "Well done." Ben smiled. It was rare to get a compliment from Mr. Tabby. As they walked, Pearl launched a round of questions. "How long is it going to take there? Does the griffin live in the mountains or in a forest? Does it eat lion food or eagle food? Is it old? Do its babies hatch from eggs or are they born? Where does it—" "Questions are cheap and easy to find," Mr. Tabby interrupted with a stern voice. "Answers are like treasures, waiting to be revealed." "Huh?" Pearl scrunched up her face, and then she shrugged. As soon as they were inside, Ben closed the hospital's front door and slid the 5 deadbolts into place. The bolts had been installed to provide extra security against anyone who might want to sneak into Dr. Wu's hospital and uncover secrets, or worse, steal them. "My grandpa sent some soup to Dr. Wu to keep her healthy," Ben said, holding out the thermos. I didn't tell him that she was already sick." Ben hoped Dr. Wu wasn't feeling too bad with her face and her neck all puffed up like a blowfish. "There's enough soup for the Sasquatch, too, but I'm not sure if there's enough for Metalmouth." Ben guessed that 2 or 3 gallons of soup would be considered a single serving for a dragon. Mr. Tabby took the thermos. "That was considerate," and he set it aside in the identification room. But right now there is no time for soup consumption or dilly-dallying of any sort. We must prepare for our journey. Mr. Tabby led them through the employees-only door. Because this was Ben and Pearl's fourth official visit as apprentices, they knew exactly what to do. They punched their cards on the clock, and then they thumbtacked them to the on-duty side of the bulletin board. That's when Ben noticed something was different. How come Violet's card is on the off-duty side? Violet was a switchboard operator who worked on the 10th floor, fielding emergency calls from the imaginary world. She was a satirist, half human, half goat. I am afraid Violet is also ill with troll tonsillitis. Her brother is working instead. And sure enough, a card belonging to Vinny was tacked to the on-duty side. Neither Ben nor Pearl had ever met Vinny. If he's Violet's brother, then he's half goat too, right? Pearl asked. Mr. Tabby flared his nostrils. Vinny is a satyr, not a goat. Try to use the correct terminology. Wow, Pearl whispered to Ben. We get to meet a half man, half goat, and a half lion, half eagle. While that seemed to be an amazing opportunity, an important question popped into Ben's head. Mr. Tabby? What number does the Griffin get on the danger scale? The danger scale was the measurement used to rate the imaginary creatures. The number 1 was given to the least dangerous, like a gentle unicorn foal, and the number 5+ went to the most dangerous, like a child eating kelpie. I just want to be prepared, Ben added. Pearl thought he was scared. In case it rates a 5+. Firstly, let me make it abundantly clear that a griffin is not an it. He is a he. And secondly, though he possesses talons, claws, and a razor-sharp beak, his mood determines his danger rating. Let us hope that he is in a good mood, and let us do our best not to annoy him. Ben and Mr. Tabby looked directly at Pearl. Why is everybody staring at me? I won't annoy the Griffin. Well, not on purpose. Maybe go easy on the questions, Ben said gently. He didn't want to hurt her feelings, but she did tend to ask a lot of questions. Pearl scowled and was about to say something when Mr. Tabby cleared his throat, as if preparing for a speech. I am about to deliver important instructions, so I require your full attention. Okay, Ben said. I'm listening. Pearl scratched beneath her yellow ribbon. Me too. Mr. Tabby pressed his fingertips together. There is only one way to get a griffin's feather. It must be given by the griffin himself. He is protective of his feathers, and he will only grant one if someone has made him happy. The best way to make a griffin happy is to engage it in a battle of riddles. Are either of you skilled in the art of riddling? I know some knock-knock jokes, Pearl said. Knock-knock, she pointed at Mr. Tabby. You're supposed to say, who's there? Jokes are not the same as riddles, Mr. Tabby said, his gold vest shimmering beneath the hallway lights. A joke has a punchline. A riddle is a story with an answer. Oh, well, then Ben can tell the riddles because he's super good at making up stories. Pearl nudged Ben with her elbow. I guess so, Ben said. This is excellent news. Mr. Tabby nodded approvingly and then continued with instructions. In addition to our fancy clothes, our manners during our visit must be fancy as well. Do either of you know how to bow? Sure, Pearl said. I bow at my piano recitals. She leaned so far forward it looked as if she were preparing to do a somersault. Mr. Tabby returned her to an upright position. Allow me to demonstrate the correct form. And he placed one arm behind his back and swept the other arm through the air, bowing at the waist until he was as perfect as can be at a 90-degree angle. Then he straightened. Your turn. It took Ben and Pearl 3 tries before Mr. Tabby nodded and said, not perfect, not at all perfect, but it will be acceptable. Why exactly are we bowing? Ben asked. Well, one must always bow in the presence of royalty. Royalty? Pearl said, the word so loudly it echoed down the hall. She pushed the big, drooping ribbon out of her eyes. Are we going to go see the Unicorn Princess again? Or maybe the Unicorn King? Mr. Tabby grabbed a black satchel from the supply closet. I doubt we will encounter a unicorn. They rarely leave the tangled forest. And our journey will take us to the center of the imaginary world. So then what royalty are we meeting? Ben asked. Mr. Tabby's mustache twitched. The Griffin King, of course. Have you not been paying attention? The Griffin is a king? Pearl asked. He is not a king. He is the king. The Griffin is the king of the entire imaginary world. Mr. Tabby's yellow eyes flashed. And that is why you must remember my instructions. Because if he becomes displeased, the Griffin King has the power to keep us in his world forever.